Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World, how you guys doing? And will be my last video before the election tomorrow, which we're all waiting with bated breath to see what happens. So, I've already made videos about the different candidates, and now I think I'm just going to make one in general about what I vote for in general. And I've said in the past that I would not be adverse to voting Republican if they were to actually run somebody worth voting for. So it kind of goes without saying that, well, I tend to vote Democrat most of the time. And some people have asked me why. Well, why is it that you vote, why is it that you gravitate towards them? And it doesn't really have very much to do with ideology on my part. It's more of looking at the record. I look at what Democrats stand for, and I look at what Republicans stand for and what they've done in the past and the results of their policies, and find that I line up more with the left sides, Democrat, progressive Democrat, way more than I do on, anything else. And it's more of, at this point, it's more of like, well, I think the evidence is pretty clear that just Democrats in general tend to govern better. They govern better. They tend to actually do the things that they claim that they want to do, and generally the little people out there benefit more when they're in charge. Which is not to say that there aren't corporatist Democrats and there's not war hawks and XYZ. There are conservative Democrats out there as well, and there's Democrats that stand against rights of people and stuff like that. It's a very big tent, but overall, the results of their policies at least it looks to me that the results of their policies are a lot more in line with what I would like the country to go to, and they benefit, the rest of us, the 99%, a lot more than what the Republicans do. And it's more of just looking at the performance of the Republican Party over the last 8 years kind of makes me think like, I'll probably never vote for them ever until every single one of them that's currently in Congress and in the House is like dead or gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way I would ever vote for any standing member of Congress or the House who's a Republican. Fuck that shit. If any of those guys ever ran for president, I would never vote for them ever in my entire life. It just kind of goes like, just looking at the results of their policies. Like, let's not forget, that the Republican Party, right, under George W. Bush, the Republicans, they're the ones that got us into the war in the Middle East, They're the ones that after the war should have been over, after a month or so, they're the ones that, the Republican leadership were the ones that set up the stage so that we have ISIS today. They're the ones that banned all the Baathists and shut down the army, but for some reason allowed them to keep their guns, right? How the fuck does that make sense? Basically they begged for an armed insurgency to show up. You shut down the army, but you let them keep their weapons. And then you get surprised when they like turn to terrorists. Like, how does that fucking make sense? They're the ones that privatized everything in Iraq. If you remember, Iraq had a very good healthcare system. They had a really good education system. All of that stuff was top notch. They removed all of that, and now it's shitty today because of them. They're the ones that wouldn't allow free elections after Saddam was toppled, right? I don't know if you guys remember this, but, it only took like a month and a half for Saddam Hussein to get toppled, and then there were politicians in Iraq who wanted to run for president. They wanted to have elections, and, Paul Bremer and all those guys wouldn't let them. Basically they fucked it up. Like, it was their really poor, the very, very poor foreign policy making decisions, from the Republican Party just fucked up that whole area. And now we have, international terrorists who are like in other countries, who are in Europe, who are in France, who are beheading people and running over people with trucks and shit. all of this is not Obama's fault, all right? This is not Hillary Clinton's fault. All of this happened because because of very poor leadership from the Republican Party and under the Bush administration. But it's not just foreign policy that I have a problem with. I mean, pretty much everything that they do domestically is ridiculous as well. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but the House has tried to repeal Obamacare 65 times since it got passed. I mean, that's fucking ridiculous, just over and over and over and over. You know, and it tells me when they do shit like that, you know, and they don't have a plan to replace it with, and it's all for politics. It's all because they want their constituents to make them think that they're trying to do something, when in real life they know it's never gonna fucking happen. You know, and if it did happen, it would like cause like a systemic collapse of the entire healthcare industry. You know, it's reckless, right? Their willingness to play chicken with the debt ceiling. You know, like I don't know if you guys remember that, but they've shut the government down, you know, multiple times now, right? It's funny how they never do that shit when like a Republican president is in charge. They never did that when Bush was there, right? They allowed the national debt to just grow and grow and grow. Suddenly when there's a Democrat in charge, it's like, oh, wait, we need to be fiscally conservative. And they're like, you know, so they won't raise the debt, you know, ceiling, right? Which puts like the entire world financial system at risk. So yeah, people don't understand that what that actually means. You know, if you don't fucking raise the debt ceiling, everything is going to collapse. The entire financial system in the entire fucking world will collapse. Your money will be worth nothing, all right? I mean, it would be something that made the 2008 collapse look like child's play, right? And this is what they're willing to do in order to score political brownie points, you know? It's fucking ridiculous. And it's just shit like that, you know, shit like that, and the fact that we can't get a fucking Supreme Court, you know, justice nominated. We can't fill that vacancy because the Republicans are blocking it, you know. And that's not the only vacancy in the government now. You know, they won't appoint any federal judges, right? They won't allow any of those to go through. We have an unbalanced labor board. We've had that for years, right? We can't even get a fucking budget passed. I think they finally passed a budget in like 2015 for like the first time. Like, we went like 8 years without an actual budget, and they were just using emergency supplementals. Now, what the fuck is that, right? Like, the government needs money to run. They won't pass a budget. It's ridiculous, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. The obstructionism is taken to a ridiculous degree, and it's because, you know, is it because the people in Congress are insane, or is it because their constituents are insane, right? Because it seems to me that, you know, Republicans in general are just on the wrong side of every fucking issue that I can think of. You know, they're against women's rights. They're fucking, they keep getting busted for like voter suppression. You know, that's another thing. Like, they go and they shut down voting, you know, voting polling places in minority areas, you know, that kind of thing, right? They're climate denials. They, you know, they think fucking, you know, global warming is a fucking hoax or whatever, right? They fucking, you know, no rights for gay people, women's rights, fucking trying to like teach creationism in schools, and, you know, torturing people. I mean, it seems like every single, you know, like issue that you can think of, these people are the ones who are on the wrong side of it. They're the ones causing the fucking problems, right? And there's this unwillingness to fix anything because they have this sort of like idiotic idea, right, that they want to return to the 1950s or some shit. I mean, it's like ridiculous. And where does the problem lie? Is it the politicians who are taking advantage of stupid people, or is it the stupid people to begin with? I don't know. You know, I think the entire thing, all of the Republican Party in general, just needs to just die out, you know, like the dinosaurs, right? And I think that's probably that's probably something that's going to happen after this election. Like, hopefully tomorrow Trump gets fucking god stomped, and the Republican Party, like, you know, goes and does a post-mortem and realizes why they keep losing elections. And then maybe this time they might reform themselves, and they might actually next time put out someone worth voting for. They might actually look at some of the issues and go, okay, the people want X, Y, Z. and we have to stop relying on bigotry and hate in order to like maintain power, and we have to be a little more inclusive, and we have to stop denying science, XYZ, and then finally we might actually get, you know, two viable parties again, right? And the government might actually start working again and doing what it's supposed to do. But at this point, it's not. And just, you know, one of the other things that everybody says, because whenever you talk politics like this on the internet, there's always that one asshole who goes, well, it's both sides. You know, it's the Republicans and the Democrats that are causing this problem. No, it's not, all right? It's the Republicans, okay? The Democrats are not causing these problems. The Democrats are not obstructing. They're trying to get shit done, and they're getting blocked, all right? The Democrats are not the ones who are filibustering every fucking thing that comes through Congress. They're not the ones who are stopping, you know, keeping us from having a functioning Supreme Court. They're not the ones who are blocking Guantanamo Bay. I mean, it's you know, it's not equally shared. The evidence doesn't say that the problem is with both parties, right? The evidence says that the problem is with the Republicans far more and to a much greater degree than the Democrats. And that's why I don't vote for them. And that's why I probably never will vote for them until I see these kinds of changes happening. Until, you know, because that's the thing, is that I could go for fiscal responsibility, right? And I can go for, you know, conservative values, right? I can understand them, right? They just need to be applied logically and not, you know, not with a very thick veneer of racism and hate and bigotry. If they remove all of that, if they remove the racism, the hate, the bigotry, the tribalism, the fucking science denial, right? You know, and they start actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is governing, then maybe I'll vote for them. But till that day happens, I'm not. So, anyway, everyone go out and vote tomorrow. Adios.